The responsibility of medical experts is to protect and save the lives of people, whether they be patients in hospital or infants in need of home surveillance. The ability to detect life-threatening events in its early stages is critical to saving lives and decreasing mental and physical damage. Professional expertise, together with accurate information provided by sophisticated medical equipment, makes this early detection possible. Reportedly, there are approximately 8 million Americans who suffer from some type of apnea, 50,000 of whom are in need of constant respiratory monitoring.
There is an important need for a dependable, non-invasive respiratory monitor. And the need is in a number of clinical situations. We think of the patient post-operatively who has a respiratory system that is compromised either by anesthesia or by pain. We consider the patient who is a respiratory or cardiac cripple and requires special care in the wards. And we consider patients after head injuries or cerebrovascular accidents, where once again it is urgent for us to monitor their respiratory action.
Non-invasive monitoring of the respiratory system are largely limited to the detection of apnea. Most of these monitors are based on plethysmography. Firstly, they do not detect hyperventilation, nor do they detect obstruction. And secondly, they are usually, in most cases, unable to differentiate between involuntary movement and apnea.
Most of the respiratory monitors in use today are apnea monitors, and as the name implies, they will only alarm when the patient is in a state of apnea. Clinically, that situation is too far gone as far as we are concerned. It is vital for us to determine respiratory disturbances before they reach the stage of apnea. Only then we are able to do something effective to treat them.
The Atlas Research's new microcomputer-based 8800 cardiorespiratory apnea monitor series offers the comprehensive and reliable patient surveillance capabilities that an apnea monitor must deliver. The 8800 clinical model includes these functions: heart and breath rate displays, high-low alarm presets for tachycardia, bradycardia, hyperventilation and apnea period, and corresponding pulse and alarm indicators. Functions and features unique to the 8800. The ventilation index display and its limit alarms allow the 8800 to detect obstruction and respiratory depression. The motion light indicates gross body movements. Status indicators for integrity self-tests and alarm control functions. The 8800 home model differs only in having its alarm presets in the rear panel. The 8800 automatically calibrates to individualized ECG and respiration patterns. The key features of the Atlas 8800 are next demonstrated during the occurrence of obstruction, gross body movements, and central apnea. The upper polygraph trace is the airflow. The lower trace is the ribcage movements. The comprehensive capabilities of the Atlas 8800 have been subject to extensive tests by leading medical experts in Israel.
We tested its efficacy in dogs. The dogs were anesthetized, intubated, and monitored for their cardiac, respiratory, and blood gas functions. Our first step was to occlude the endotracheal tube completely. And according to the first graph that you can see here, our results show that in spite of there being complete occlusion of the respiratory airway, there is still movement recorded on the graph. These respiratory movements will not set off the alarm in the ordinary apnea monitor. Now, the Atlas 8800 is capable of recognizing and alarming for reductions in tidal volume, whether it's a 50% reduction or a 25% reduction. The ordinary apnea monitor is unable to do so. Abnormal movements may interfere with the respiratory monitor, and the Atlas 8800 was able to record and alarm for any such abnormal movements.
Firstly, we tested the apnea monitor, and as expected, the apnea alarm sounded in all cases where apnea was produced. We then, and more importantly for ourselves, tested the ability of the AR8800 to detect hyperventilation. Patients were hyperventilated and the alarm successfully went off. In my opinion, the inclusion of the AR8800 into standard ECG monitors would be a major advance. Not only would we have an apneic alarm, but in addition, a system whereby we may detect early hyperventilation as well as respiratory obstruction.
From apnea until death is a question of 3 to 4 minutes. We are able to detect respiratory changes before we get into this final round.
Future trends include interface to a central nurse's station, a home monitor with a trans-telephonic interface, talking instructions, and a wireless patient hookup. With Atlas's new patented concepts and algorithms, the apnea monitoring field has attained a new level of effectiveness and safety. The AR8800 is now authorized for marketing by the US FDA and is available for licensing through the British Technology Group, the world's leading technology transfer organization.